And hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So today I'm joined by Ezra, and today we're going to say some words about video games and his video game based job.
Hi.
Hello. So we'll start with start things off with just your introduction.
All right. Yeah. I'm Ezra Szanton, and I do make video games. I make a lot of really weird stuff on sort of my own time, and I'm also a junior software developer at Petricore Games, which is an indie studio in Worcester.
Okay. And how did you discover video games?
Yeah. So I was really a Flash kid growing up. I played on a lot of those websites. So like my most nostalgia is for Nitrome, if you remember that one. They put out like a game every month, and I would like wait on their website for when it would come out. And I played like all of those games. It was so fun. And then at some point, somebody told me about Steam, and that sort of blew my brain out. um, yeah.
Yeah, and what would you say was your favorite game and or games growing up?
Mm. Yeah, so on Nitrome specifically, there was this game called Final Ninja, where you had like a grappling hook and you would sneak around, and that was really fun. I played it recently; it doesn't really hold up, but in my memory, it's like the best thing ever. And then I think my actual favorite game of all time is a game called Gunpoint, that's made by Tom Francis, and it's like a comedy noir game where you sneak into buildings by rewiring all the electric systems. So like you can make a light switch instead of like turning on and off the lights. You can make it open and close doors and like get a guard to hit himself with his own door by when he's trying to turn on the light.
Okay, and what would you say is your favorite game and or games now?
Seems cliche almost because I know a lot of people like this, but Spelunky 2 is just ah, it's so good. I've been playing so much of it. It's like one of those games where it feels like I could play it forever and still enjoy it.
Okay, and like if the world wasn't currently in the middle of an actual plague, and things like conventions were a thing that could happen like reasonably, and someone was to walk past the Petricore booth, and you were there to give them the rundown, what would be like the elevator pitch you'd give them to describe what this studio is all about?
Yeah, so Petricore is really small. There's like literally six of us, and I'm the most recent employee there. Um, they started it right out of college. They went to Becker, which is in Worcester, and we make, I'd say, sort of, I don't know, like really polished, clean games. So like if you play, we have a couple of mobile games. There's one called Mind the Arrow and another called Gelato Flicker, and they're just sort of casual games with lots of replayability. And we put a lot of work into all the little details of like how things spin around or how they bounce when you click them and stuff like that.
Okay, and you said that you're a junior software developer, and as someone who is not as someone who does not have a job in the game industry, and you know doesn't really understand the business side of games at all ever. Like, what does that mean for you in this studio?
Yeah. So because it's so small, I end up doing actually a lot of stuff. Um, the main thing is so we work in a game development engine called Unity,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of my day is spent in Unity, actually developing the games. But I also run our Twitter account at Petricore Games, and I also help with like marketing. So recently we've been starting to do tutorials to sort of get the name out there and give back to the community a little bit. And there's a lot of work that also goes into like trying to figure out like what our next game should be. Um, Another thing that I was sort of surprised by that people might be interested to know if they're looking to get into games is oftentimes small studios take on a lot of client work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we make like interactive exhibits for museums oftentimes because when you just work on a game for a long time and then release it, it's a huge variance whether you're gonna be able to like fund yourself for the next year. So client work really helps smooth it out because you get like regular payments that you can plan for and everything like that.
Okay, and like, how did you actually like get the job? Like, is it standard to just like regular jobs where they posted an opening and you applied for it, or is it like a word of mouth type of thing, or how does it
Yeah,
work?
it's somewhere in between. I did an internship over the summer called the Mass Digi Summer Innovation Program, or SIP, and Petricore. A lot of the people who work there like went through that as well. And Ryan, who runs Petricore, he was giving a talk at SIP, and he sort of people were asking questions about how to get into the games industry and stuff because we're all interns, so that's sort of what's on our mind. And he gave us a lot of good advice, and then he also said, and Petricore is looking to hire soon, and you should get your resume together and apply if you're interested. So I had everything ready to go, and they did post on their website as well. Um, but that was definitely helpful to have like met him a little bit before I applied.
Okay, and like, what does a typical day of work for you generally look like?
It really varies a lot depending on what it is that I'm working on currently, but the biggest projects I've had so far have been taking some of our older games and uh, revamping them for because like games on mobile they sort of like fall off the app store if you just leave them too long, and they had created new versions of them actually to run on TVs. So what I was doing is like taking the TV version and rescaling everything and like reworking some of the game design to make it work for phones again, and that involves a lot of playing around with. Um, I don't know how much you know about the way that Unity works, but there's like um, the way that you. Uh, sorry, let me rewind for a second. Basically, Unity can export to play a game on basically any device.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is uh, it has to know how to size everything for every device. And so you can imagine like going from a TV to like a phone to an iPad to a computer, and they're all different resolutions. So there's this really complex sort of tree that you have to make of logic to determine like, all right, if this thing's going to be in a corner, then that thing should go under it, but a little bit to the right. But if it's too much to the right, it goes off the screen, then actually go backwards a little bit. So there's a lot of that. We also have, recently we've been trying to figure out what it is we're going to do next. So we've been having some meetings in terms of like figuring out different game designs and stuff. And I'm not allowed to talk about that yet, but it's very exciting.
Okay, and um, what was the first game you worked on, like when you joined Petricore?
So it's kind of funny, actually. As part of my application process, um, I sort of didn't have anything to do the 2 days before it, and I was really stressed. And I really like game jams and like making games quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of their games, well, actually, I think the first game that they released on mobile is called Mind the Arrow, and I had been playing it, and I was like, I might be able to make that. So I actually, as part of my application, I made like a knockoff version of it to be able to talk about during the interview. And my first job when I actually got there was to redo Mind the Arrow. So I sort of worked on that twice at the beginning.
Okay, and yeah, like what advice would you have for anyone who wants to work in like a game studio like Petricore or I don't know something like completely what like game industry advice would you give to anyone who's looking to get into it really?
Yeah. Well, this advice is given often, but I'm going to repeat it because I think it's really good advice. Just make such a small game. Just so small, and then cut it in half, and then cut it in half again, and do like the simplest version of your idea. Because being able to finish something will give you so much more experience than just like starting things over and over. And I think I heard on one of your most recent episodes, Jack Breen. I actually know him through the internship that I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and he was giving the advice that you can like jump into something big. And I that might work for some people, but at least for me, like doing the really small thing, doing game jams and stuff, uh, will help you develop your skills, and also like they look really good on your portfolio because then people who are hiring you know, oh, this person can really understands it, they get it, and they can look at it and know that you're going to be able to do the job. Because honestly, like when I was looking for, let's say, like get into the games industry, it felt so mystical. But when it comes down to it, they just want somebody who can do the job, and so the more you can prove to them that you can do it, like that's how you're gonna get it, I think.
Okay. And since you can't give away any company secrets yet, are there like any genres or anything like that that the Petricore is like openly expressed an interest in like getting involved in?
Well, one thing that I can say is we're currently working on a game called Dogfight,
Mm-hmm.
which is a game where you play as dogs in planes. Um, So, yeah, you can look forward to that. It's local multiplayer, and we're working on some other stuff for it as well. But yeah, I guess that's our sort of flagship thing right now. Dogfight, Operation Dogfight. Excuse me. We originally called it Dogfight, and then we're doing a rebrand to Operation Dogfight because when you search Dogfight, like it does not come up with our game. Let's just say.
Okay. And yeah, I'm just looking at the dogfight page right now,
Oh yeah.
and therefore,
Um,
so are the viewers. So, like, how is this game like going to play once it's
mm,
ready for the world?
yeah. So my favorite weapon is the tennis ball machine gun,
Mm-hmm.
and so like you basically fly around and try to maneuver so that you can sort of be behind somebody, and then start firing your various weapons like frisbee thrower. I think there's one that just throws a bunch of mail like out of a mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a I don't know if this feature is going to end up in the final game, but um, one of the other programmers was showing me that they had added a feature where if you have there's like a big laser, and you can use the laser pointer to make the cats crash because the cats will like follow it.
I get it.
Yeah. So lots of just like sort of silly weapons. It's very cartoony, I guess.
Okay. And I know just the way of the world is like just throwing the biggest monkey wrench into when certain things are going to be out. But is there a like an estimated time of release?
Um, it's very up in the air right now. Like I said, with the client work, it really depends on how much of that we have because the client work takes priority a lot of the times,
Mm-hmm.
and we sort of work on Dogfight and our own games when we have the time in between those things. but our Steam page, where you can go wishlist Operation Dogfight, uh, says 2021. So I think it's pretty safe to say sometime in this year, but maybe early next year.
Okay, and yeah, I guess there's nothing left but to move on to the final question of
I'm so
the
excited.
interview, which, everyone always understands perfectly. Ezra, in your opinion, is video games?
In the context of everything else, yes.
Okay. And with that, we can conclude this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast. I would like to thank Ezra for joining me, talking about his love of games and the bits and bops that the studio he's working for has got their hands on, and yeah.
Thanks
So
for having me.
you're welcome. So Operation Dogfight. If
Yes.
dogs shooting at each other they're all Snoopy and the Red Baron is your thing, just keep an eye on it. Launches 2021.
Probably.
Hopefully.
Yes.
And yeah, this is if you like listening to this and you want to hear more, like, rate, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get notifications because everyone loves extra steps. Yeah, and if at the end you're done giving Petricore your money, get buying some of their games, and you have any left over, you can go to patreon.com/thepumpkincoptercast, where for as little as $1 a month you could submit questions for me to use in future interviews. So yeah, this has been the Pumpkin Copter Cast, and as I say at the end of every show, have a gourd day, everyone.